understand that the gentleman is apparently attending a funeral of the late Mr. Watty Watson.
He is empowered for how much people?
I'm told that insofar as the Deputy Chief Whip of the
and then if we
majority party is concerned, there is some logistical issue which might see Ms. Shlakude arriving somewhat later this afternoon, but we can, I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, whether you wish to deal with that now or later.
What steps?
Thank you, Mr. Van Voore. We are aware of the funeral of
Chairperson,
the
thank
former
you.
member of Parliament,
My questions
Mr.
were
Watson.
largely answered,
And
but
we have been informed, of course, that it is
I'm
happening
still not
today
happy about the
in
special
Victoria.
report of the
And
the
it
special
is
audit
understandable.
report. I've written to you now an email just
that
to
the
say
Chief Whip of the
I think we could ask
Democratic
the Minister
Alliance
to please
is
give us her
going to
view
attend that.
on what has happened,
And,
because she's the only one who's got the report. We don't have the report. We don't know what happened.
The other issue, of course, is
I mean, I appreciate the fact that you've sent the
Deputy
audit
Chief Whip
report to the
of,
Auditor
the
General,
Majority
to the
Party.
Minister and to Treasury.
We also
But
got the information that is arriving.
That doesn't help us as a committee, because we don't know if things are okay or if things are not okay, because we don't see the report. So, Chairperson, I would ask two things. The first one, I would ask you if we could ask the Minister to come in, give us her view of what is in the report and what should be done to rectify. And then I would ask also, Chairperson,
which report is it?
it's the special audit report of NEDLAC into the financial irregularities.
Been given opportunity up to that specific time. And I think we'll just simply watch the space and time. And if you complete and is still available to appear today, then we should be able to give them the opportunity. I'm sure members will not have a problem with that, because it is them that wanted these two honorable members to come and assist them with the kind of evidence that they wanted on specific issues. Therefore, it shouldn't be a problem if all of them are available. And from the chair, I can indicate that we can wait for them, whether it's up to 8 o'clock in the night, and then to actually get that evidence from them. It shouldn't be a problem. I think that should be the way. I think before we finish with the witnesses that we have, I think we would have actually agreed on the time of suspensions to wait for these specific members, and probably would have had adequate information about their actual availability today. And we would make those specific announcements as time proceeds. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then there are two further witnesses which the committee wished to give evidence. The first is Minister Mashlobo, the Minister of State Security, and the next is Minister Twele, now the Minister of Telecommunications. I am informed that those two ministers are abroad until the 26th of October, Minister Mashlobo, that is, and Minister Twele until the 28th of October. I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, if you and your committee wish to deal with it at this time. I'd much rather call the two officials who are here and who are standing ready to give evidence, and the committee can then at an appropriate time deal with the balance of the issues.
Yes, that's correct. I think we may proceed, then we'll deal with that at the end of the witnesses that are available.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was, during the leading of the evidence of Mr. Kaso, an issue raised that it might be that the Parliament's equipment, the to talk button, for example, microphone equipment and other electronic equipment at the desk or chair of each member of Parliament in the National Assembly might not have been working properly. either for all of the session on 21 August 2014, or certainly for that part of the session at which various members wanted to intervene but suggested that there was an issue with the equipment. Mr. Chairman and the members of your committee, you will recall that there was then, during the engagement of the committee with Mr. Kaso of some 4 hours and 20 minutes, various questions and propositions put to Mr. Kaso as to the state of the equipment on the day, whether or not the equipment had been checked. There was a question asked as to whether audits are carried out, and if so, with what regularity or frequency are those audits carried out. Arising out of that, the committee then took the view that it would be appropriate for Mr. Ravi Polia, who is the head of Parliament's Information, Communications and Technology Department or Division, to come and give evidence. Mr. Polia is available and standing ready to do so. I propose that we invite Mr. Polia into this venue, Mr. Chairman, and whilst we do that, if we may distribute a bundle of documents, which Mr. Polia will also refer to.
Okay, agreed. Let's have the documents and let the witness come in as well. Direct him where to sit. Honorable members, Rule 138A of the Assembly Rules requires me, prior to the witness giving evidence, to inform him as follows. I quote, "Please be informed that by law you are required to answer fully and satisfactorily all the questions lawfully put to you, or to produce any document that you are required to produce in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry, notwithstanding that the answer or document could you to criminal or civil proceedings or damages. You are, however, protected in that the evidence given under oath or affirmation before a House or committee may not be used against you in any court or place outside Parliament, except in criminal proceedings concerning a charge of perjury or a charge relating to the evidence or documents required in these proceedings." Close quote. Do you have any objection to take oath or affirmation? Can you get the thing there to work? Just relax. The engineers will sort it out for you. We have got one mic that is actually disturbing all other mics not to function. Yes, we are aware. That's why we want to deal with it so that that one can work. I'm not sure whether they took for granted that the witness is going to sit here. I'm not sure.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. I say, het werkt nou, joh. Testing 1 2. 1 2 1 2.
today end? You want to wrap up today? 6 witnesses. Oh, okay, so it's just the two of us then. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. I heard that he passed away, yeah. Mm. Wow, okay. So you're sitting late today? Sounds like it. People are too tired and their nerves are rubbed raw sometimes. They respond too quickly. Yeah, they must be, because this is a tiring process. I see them in the house. I mean, for 4 hours sitting. By the end of the 4 hours, they're done. Done. Shame. Wouldn't want to be in her shoes.
I think it's going to be tough for her.
Yeah.
Kept us waiting all day. You know, they'll be more impatient with her than with anyone else.
Yeah, they will. I see they gave Frankie and somebody else a hard time last week. Was it Gary? The legal
yes.
people here.
Oh, they gave Gary a hard time. But he stayed calm.
It's the nature of politics.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I just check up. Colin, you ready?
Order. Let's give ourselves just 1 minute for everybody to get seated so that we can resume with the proceedings. 1 minute.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm running out of real estate on this desk. These ones are not, but they've just temporarily disabled them. They'll fix them now as soon as you go into lunch. They don't want to delay the committee. Put that on that side. Yeah, you don't. Maybe you want to leave it on that corner somewhere.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, I think we just need to apologize to all of you for this untimely hiccup. And of course, honorable members will all know that with electronic equipment, it's not easy to guarantee their functionality at all times. And sometimes, even when it collapses, it does not even give an indication or made any application to anybody. Especially some of you, you'll remember some of your cell phones while you are engaging in some important conversation, then it just gets stuck and ceases to function, irrespective how much you have paid for it. So electronic equipment sometimes and computers and whatever, they can embarrass you sometimes, but I'm happy that we have got capable men and women around Parliament who have been able, in a short space of time, to actually make sure that you are able to proceed with the hearing. Honorable members, when the equipment broke down, I was saying Rule 138 of the Assembly Rules requires me, prior to a witness giving evidence, to inform such witness as follows. Please be informed that by law you are required to answer fully and satisfactorily all the questions lawfully put to you, or to produce any document that you are required to produce in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry, notwithstanding that the answer or the document could incriminate you or expose you to criminal or civil proceedings or damages. You are, however, protected in that the evidence given under oath or affirmation before a House or a committee may not be used against you in any court or place outside Parliament, except in criminal proceedings concerning a charge of perjury or a charge relating to the evidence or documents required in these proceedings. Now, I want to ask whether you have got any objection in taking oath or making affirmation.
I have no objection. Sure.
Do you want to take an oath or make an affirmation?
An oath.
You therefore have to say to us, I swear that the testimony or evidence I'm going to give is the truth and only the truth, so help me God.
I swear the testimony and the evidence that I'm going to give is the truth and only the truth, so help me God.
Thank you very much. Mr. Van Voore, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pulia, after what I'm sure is little more than an unfortunate coincidence of circumstances, I'd now like to proceed with your evidence. If you can please just state your full names.
My name is Ranganathan Polya. Ranganathan Polya. Everybody commonly calls me as Ravi, I suppose, because first name.
Thank you. And just to confirm, in what capacity are you employed in Parliament?
I am the ICT section manager for Parliament.
And for how long have you been the ICT section manager?
For about 10 years.
And just in broad strokes for now, I'm interested in more of the architecture. We will drill into the detail in almost granular fashion a bit later. But for now, I'm interested in broad strokes. Will you just describe your duties and responsibilities?
I manage a team of individuals that is responsible for technical maintenance and support for our IT and audio-video infrastructure, equipment, and systems. I manage a few units that have both technical and managerial staff that are responsible for the day-to-day maintenance and support of such systems.
Honorable Filtain, if it's about the volume, I've already made a request for them to up the volume. You can continue if it's not about the volume of the mic. Honorable Filtain.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Chair. Is it possible for that to be linked to these hearing devices? Because my fear is that even if the volume is upped, but we can try. I'm not standing against that, Chair. I'm considerate enough. But is it possible for that to be linked to it? Because this helps us to hear him clearly. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll make that request that the technicians also try and make sure that it is linked to the handsets on the desk. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Polya. If you can just describe again, speaking a bit more loudly, I suppose, okay, in broad strokes, your duties and responsibilities.
My primary responsibility is to manage a team of managers and technicians that are responsible for technical maintenance and support of all of our IT, that is our information technology systems, as well as our audio and video broadcast infrastructure and systems at Parliament.
Thank you. And roughly how many persons are there in your team?
The entire team of both IT and audio and video staff is about 65 staff.
I now want to turn to specifically the testing of equipment as that equipment exists in the National Assembly. Again, in broad strokes, if you can just explain to the committee what the testing routine is or what those routines are in broad and general terms.
I think it's important to understand that the National Assembly systems consist of a number of subsystems that are integrated to form a single chamber system. So let me begin with the audio system, which is a system I'm sure most of the members are familiar with, that allows the members to speak and to be heard in the chamber. There are interpretation systems, which allows members to speak in the language of their choice, and then allows parliamentary staff to interpret so that they can be heard. We have a voting system that allows members to vote. We have a request to talk system, as most members are aware, which we use primarily during the question and answering period. We have an IT system, which consists of an information system that allows members to access documents in the chamber. We have a request for service system that allows members to request anything from the service officers on duty. And there's a number of backup and redundant systems that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Polya. In relation to testing routines, how regularly and I suppose, as we'll get to in a bit more detail later, how often are tests conducted on the various systems as described by you?
In the National Assembly Chamber, we have two testing regimes. Every week on a Monday, we have what we call a complete final comprehensive test, which consists of a very detailed testing of not only each and every component, but back-end system, the networks, each microphone, every station on every desk, every button that is required, including the computer system. We test as well as the speakers. We have quite a few speakers in the chamber, so each one of them is tested individually using test equipment. We check for calibration. So it's a very involved testing procedure. And that's just in the chamber. We have 2 engineers, or sometimes up to 4 engineers in the chamber at any given time. Once all the testing in the chamber itself is completed, the engineers then go downstairs to the data center, and there's an entire list of back-end systems that we check, because all of our operational and back-end servers and hardware is located in the data center. So they do thorough testing and evaluation of those systems. And then they test the entire system as a whole, and that's just on the Monday. And we do this every Monday. However, before every sitting of the House, we also turn on the systems around 10 o'clock in the morning, and we perform similar tests, not exactly at the same depth. What we do is we check again each and every workstation, all 400 of them. We checked the table staff equipment, their computers, the chairpersons or the speakers, microphone, IT systems, the screens on both sides. We also test all of the cameras in the chamber to ensure that all of those are functional. And when we are satisfied that everything is working, we produce a report that details the testing procedure and the outcome of the testing.
And in carrying out these tests, my apologies, before I move on off that last answer, you say that is done on the Monday regime you've described, and then the last of the tests you've described now?
We do that before every sitting.
Thank you. And is your staff assisted by any persons external to Parliament, advisors, persons appointed to check, to assist?
Yes, we have a contractor on site as well that sits and assists with the testing to ensure that the testing is complete and accurate. And they are the contractors that actually designed and installed the system when we first put it in.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman and the members of your committee, we have handed out a bundle of documents. There is an index attached to that bundle. The bundle is some 117 pages long. Mr. Palia also has a copy of that bundle. I do not propose to take Mr. Palia through each and every page. The numbering is mainly typed numbering in the bottom right-hand corners, and that numbering in the typed numbering goes through to page 104. The document is, however, or the bundle is, however, 117 pages long, and the balance of the pages from 105 through to 117 are numbered in manuscript in the top right-hand corner. And when I refer the witness to the bundle, I'll be referring the witness to the numbering. As I say, the first numbering 1 to 105 typed in the bottom right-hand corner, and then the last 12 pages, I think it is, that numbering in manuscript in the top right-hand corner. The system as you've described, Mr. Pillay, in the National Assembly, when was that system installed?
The system was commissioned for the first time in February of 2014.
I think in layperson's terms, the system is brand spanking new, as they say.
Yes, it is.
In the bundle of documents that you have before you, it is primarily, and for the first 108 pages or so, a document described as being standard, or my apologies, the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa standard operating procedures in the National Assembly. You'll see that on the front cover. Will you please just confirm that?
Yes, that's correct.
And the testing that you have described in broad and general terms, we will get to some of the detail now. Is that testing documented anywhere in this bundle of documents?
So the document that you referred to earlier as the standard operating procedure is the Bible, as you would put it, is the way we refer to it, as the document that we would use in both testing, both on the Monday test and the pre-sitting checks, as well as any malfunctions that may occur. We use this document to test and to rectify. It is quite a detailed and comprehensive document of about 104 pages of processes and procedures.
You refer to it as a Bible. Those of your team, some I suppose, maybe all, of the 65, or a combination of them, who would carry out the Monday testing and the testing before every session, are they familiar with this document?
Yes, this is the document that we use for the testing, because the nature of the document is it's written in such a way that it gives a step-by-step guide in terms of how the test must be carried out. So it is very detailed and very comprehensive, and it has to be followed in a particular order. So the document is very important in the testing.
Thank you. You have referred, for example, to a pre-session test. In other words, a test before every session. At what time, if there is a standard time? If not, then generally at what time is that or are those tests carried out?
The sittings in the National Assembly generally start at 2 p.m. and we begin testing from any time before 10 a.m. Sometimes it's at 9 a.m. and sometimes it's at 10 when we start and what we call the startup of the chamber. So the startup of the chamber takes us about 10 minutes, sometimes up to 20 minutes, and then we begin testing. So testing starts as early as 10. We are generally complete testing by 12, and when we prepare for the sitting.
And if in that process of testing a fault or a problem is discovered, what would follow next?
Depending on the nature of the fault, in an instance where we find a screen that may be faulty or a member's voting panel that may be faulty, the engineers would refer to a particular standard process in the manual that details exactly the process to replace or rectify the fault, to replace the faulty component or to rectify the fault.
And you say, well, one of the scenarios you sketch is to replace the faulty equipment. where would they find this replacement equipment?
We keep a set of spare parts for every component that potentially could go wrong. And we keep sufficient numbers to ensure that the members' equipment is fully operational and tested before the sitting. So we keep a set of spares.
And in the event that there are no faults, what follows? Is a report produced to that effect? Or is it documented somewhere that the system has been checked and there are no faults?
Yes, the engineers obviously go through the checklist. And once they are satisfied that there are no errors or faults, they produce a report. I think there's a copy of the report that's attached, or sample report that's attached to the pack. And it has a particular status. So in the event that there are no issues with a particular component or subcomponent, they would highlight it as green. If there is a problem, it would be highlighted as either orange or red, depending on the severity of the problem. And they would make a comment as to what the nature of the fault or the error was and what was done to rectify it.
Well, while we are on this issue of reports being generated, I'd like to refer you to the last few pages of the bundle. And this is that part of the bundle where the numbering is in manuscript, top right-hand corner. If we start with page 107, right at the top there, it says National Assembly Power-Up Checklist. And then right at the bottom, there is a date, typed 19 August 2014, and there appears to be a signature above that date. If you can just explain to the committee what this document is about and what it records.
So this is what we would call the sign-off checklist for the National Assembly Chamber, which is a pre-sitting checklist. So on the day of the sitting at 10 o'clock in the morning, when we've powered up the National Assembly Chamber, we would then use this checklist together with the standard operating procedure to test various components. So briefly going through the list, the chillers in the chamber, of course, as you're aware, electronic equipment operates optimally at a particular temperature. So we start with checking whether the air conditioning in the chamber is operational and what the ambient temperature in the chamber is. So when we talk about chillers in the chamber, that's what we refer to. We also have an additional check called an AMX temperature check. So we have an electronic management system, which we call AMX, which also monitors the temperature in the chamber. It's a digital readout of what the actual temperature is. The touchscreens, of course, refer to all of the touchscreens, both that the members on the members' desks, as well as those touchscreens that are on the table staff desks and the desk of the speaker or the chairpersons. The thin client PCs we refer to as the actual computers that powers those screens that are in the desks. These are little PCs that we have embedded in the desks. The request for service is a button that's on the screens or on the panel to allow members to request a service officer either to send a note or to request water or whatever the case may be. A request to talk is the big talk button at the top, white with black writing, that members use during the question period. The sitting software, we refer to it as the sitting software because that is the software that the chamber, the table staff use to manage the sitting. It is their operational system. They stop and start the sittings, they stop and start the voting, the questions, and they have full control over the systems in the chamber. The voting software as well. So we start up, we make sure the voting software is running, and it does a diagnostic check of the voting system. We have two voting systems in the National Assembly. One is what we call the hard voting system, which is the buttons for yes, no, and abstain that's on each member's desk. On the IT system, on the screens itself, we have a backup voting system in the event that we have a problem with the primary voting system, so we can start that system up at a moment's notice. Obviously, the printer, the table staff print the voting results immediately after the vote, so we test the printer, make sure that it has sufficient paper and that it is printing. The other checks at the bottom, which we refer to, the check VM cluster environment, is the software that manages the servers in the back end in the data center. We want to make sure that those are operating optimally so that the workstations and all the other systems also operate at the same levels. The check VMware status is the same. It's in the National Assembly system, because of the size and complexity of it, we have what's called a dashboard, a reporting dashboard that shows us the status of the system. So we're able to see which components are malfunctioning or if all systems are working. Again, we make sure that the temperature in the server room is optimal, because there's a large number of equipment housed there, and we need to make sure that the chillers are working there as well. The table staff have Bluetooth equipment that they use to manage the sittings, so we just make sure that that's operational. The batteries and the Bluetooth equipment on their desks are operational. The final one is check HP Blade for physical errors. Blades are really the file servers that we have at the data center. We just need to make sure that those are operating without error. So that essentially is the checklist for a pre-sitting check.
And this document, you say, relates to the checking as done on the 19th, being an ordinary pre-session check, or was this just a Monday check?
No, this was a pre-sitting check for the 19th. So we've done, 19th was on the Monday.
Either way, nothing turns on it at this
stage.
stage.
It's the same document, because the same list is just the depth of the depth and the detail of the testing is different.
And then there's a bar that runs from the top under the heading operable all the way to the bottom. And that bar is in green. Just to confirm the significance of that.
So the green, the status, of course, means that everything is operational for that particular component. If the status of that changes for whatever reason, we would use one of two colors, either the orange or the red, depending on the severity of the issue. And you will notice that on that particular day, all the subsystems were green, so there were no errors detected. If there was an error detected, we would make a note of it in the comment section as to what the nature of the problem was and what was done to rectify it.
Across the page, or the next page, is page 108. Page 108, numbering in the top right-hand corner. Briefly, just describe or explain this. It is described on the face of it as a service report.
Just a sample from the service desk application. So in terms of our service management procedure, we have to log what we call a service call. This document is really the details around the service call. So we log the service call for the Monday check, and then depending on the number of sittings in that week, we would log a number of other calls, depending on the program, so that the service provider as well as the parliamentary staff are on site before the sittings to do the checks.
Thank you. And then at page 109, we're moving closer to the critical day. But at page 109, there appears to be a report which is, I will leave you to describe it, roughly the same as the one at page 107. Will you just confirm that this is the report in respect of the check as conducted on 20 August 2014?
Yes, it is. And obviously, well, the status is all green, so there were no errors or faults reported on that day.
And on that day, the 20th of August 2014, just to confirm for the chairman and the members of his committee, would the relevant members of your team, as assisted by the outside or external or independent services provider, have gone through the same process as you described in relation to the 19th of August?
If the 19th of August is a Monday, then the detail is it Tuesday? Okay. So the 19th of August then would be a pre-sitting check, would be exactly the same.
And it appears from this document and your explanation of a similar kind of document being at page 107 in relation to the 19th, that there were no issues that arose which required comments. And for this reason, the green bar and the column operable runs all the way through the various testing regimes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Then, would you please turn to page 111. 111, numbering in the top right-hand corner. This, of course, is the day, the 21st of August 2014. Again, well, if you can just in very brief terms and very quickly describe what this document signifies in relation to 21 August 2014.
The document actually signifies that the pre-sitting check was completed as planned before the start of the sitting, and the status indicates that there were no errors or issues identified or detected, and all systems were operational on that day.
Thank you. Please turn to page 114. This appears to relate to 26 August 2014, which would also have been a Tuesday, if 19 August was a Tuesday. Again, this document appears to signify that the system was checked in the way that you have described and that there were no faults or issues to deal with.
Yes, so this would be the first sitting after the 21st of August. Again, the pre-sitting checks were done, and according to the status report, there were no errors or issues identified. The comments columns are completely empty, which signifies that we did not detect any errors or replace any components.
If there were a problem that developed with the equipment during the course of the day, late in the afternoon, 1 hour into the session on the 21st, would there be any documenting of the fact that there was a fault or an issue which required the attention from you and your staff, and that certain steps were taken and remedial steps were taken?
Yes. If there's an error that occurs during the sitting, again, we have an incident that's logged with us. There is a very clear process on how that must be dealt with in the SOPs. And then we have what we call a change management process as well, where the required components that were faulty need to be replaced. And the engineers would then follow the standard operating procedure immediately after the sitting or before the next sitting to replace it and rectify it.
Are you aware of any report of any incident in relation to the equipment as it was used on 21 August 2014 that would have required the process of replacing, fixing, or any other intervention?
No, there was, as far as I'm aware, there was no issues logged.
You mentioned earlier that there are some 411 units that are installed in the National Assembly, and that excludes the table staff and the speaker's section and the podium, I suppose. Are similar checks carried out in relation, besides the 411 units, are similar checks carried out in relation to the speakers section and the equipment as it is installed at the staff of the NA table?
As I said earlier, the integrated nature of the system requires that we test both the members' units as well as the table staff and the speakers' units, because they operate as a single system. So we have to check it.
Thank you. There was a power-up concept. I'm not sure if you've introduced that yet. If not, I would like you to talk about the power-up and the integration as between the various units, 411 of them, together with the speaker section and the NA table staff. In this regard, I'd like to refer you, please, Mr. Pulia, to page 10. And the numbering now is in the bottom right-hand corner, page 10. To be read together with the page 11, if you can just explain this concept of chamber power up general system health check procedure.
Due to the component nature of the National Assembly system, we have a very clear process of starting up the chamber, and it is well documented. The chamber has to be started up in a particular order. And in this document on page 11, where we actually start with the power-up procedures, we generally have an electronic system that starts up the chamber. So I referred to a unit called the AMX early on, which is the management system, and we use that to power up individual components. Each component is started up one at a time, and once all the components are started up, the engineers then do a check. And if you look on page 11, it starts with, under item 2.11 procedure, it says the audiovisual engineer validates that all audiovisual components in the racks and data center are powered on. And these are the components that I spoke about in the back end. So it makes sure that the amplifiers are switched on, sound processors are switched on, the Bosch units, etc. Then they look at the servers and the switches and the network. So there's a very detailed and methodical process of powering on and verifying that the units are powered on.
Thank you. And then if I may please refer you to page 12, page 12, still under the heading Power Up the Chamber. And at paragraph 2.1.1.3, this appears to relate. This appears to relate to also the particular member of Parliament's workstation. Is that correct?
The power up procedure here under 2 again is about switching on all of the back end components as well as the individual members' stations.
Thank you. Then, if I could move along a bit in relation to voting systems as they've been installed in the chamber, I'd like to refer you here, Mr. Pulia, to page 42. Page 42. and the pages thereafter, dealing with voting buttons and the like. At page 43, it says prepare for testing. At page 44, and at the top, it talks about validating the voting buttons are functioning. And then there is a voting validation procedure described at page 46. If you can just explain to the committee in some detail the process that you go through when testing the voting buttons, as well as other systems that you run to ensure that the voting buttons are working properly. It might be the case that you run a dummy voting procedure.
So once the National Assembly chamber has been powered up and all of our systems are running, there are normally 2 to 3 engineers on site that are in the chamber testing. One of the engineers, and as the process details, so I'm just going to summarize for you. One of the engineers sits at the table staff's desk where they actually start up a test vote. And we have a particular test vote set up on the system to do this. And the other engineer then goes around the chamber and tests each individual voting station. So we have a particular methodology. We generally will say yes or no on a voting station so that the number of yeses and the number of noes is known. And we will also, in some instances, use the abstain button to test those as well. But in all cases, we would know exactly how many buttons we've pushed. So when we do finally conclude the vote, we can test the integrity of the voting system and consolidate and reconcile the numbers. So the engineer then goes to each working station, member's desk, pushes a button, moves on to the next one, pushes a button, moves on to the next one, until they've completed all the voting members, because there are some members that don't vote in the House. And once they've done that, they will go then to the printer to check the output of the voting system and confirm its accuracy.
And is that done prior? I know this may sound repetitive, but I'd hate it to be said that this was not covered and there might be small room for disputing. Is that done in relation, is that done on a Monday and indeed before and during the course of your pre-sitting testing?
Yes. On the Monday, again, we do a much more detailed testing where we actually look at the hardware components and the software components in the voting system. On the pre-sitting check, again, we do a complete test of each voting station, print out a vote to confirm that the voting stations are working, and we perform that before every sitting.
In relation to microphones, and I don't want to refer you to pages in the standard operating procedure at this time, but I will refer to pages in the operating procedure for the to talk button. But in relation to microphones, do you carry out similar testing as described by you?
In relation to microphones, again, we have 2 methods of testing. On the Monday, we have a very detailed and technical process for testing. And this is simply to make sure that the chamber and the audio system operates as it was calibrated to do so. Somewhere in the document, I think members would see that there's a figure of 56 decibels that's mentioned, which is really the operating volume of the chamber. And so we have electronic equipment that measures that. And we do that every Monday. So we test every speaker, every microphone, both on the floor, as well as from the tables, as well as the speaker's microphone. And this we do every Monday. Pre-sitting checks, we perform a similar test. And again, we test each and every microphone. And we test for volumes, we test for feedback, we test for audio clarity. We also test in that process the interpretation systems, because the audio system is connected to the interpretation systems as a collective and a single system in the chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Pulya. And now we come to the to-talk system. And here I'd like you to refer to pages 49 and 50. As well as the request to talk unit replacement procedure at page 64. But if we could start first with pages 49 to 50. If you can just describe your standard operating procedures in relation to the request to talk and what is actually then done on the Monday testing as well as the pre-sitting testing.
On the Monday testing, of course, we perform a much more comprehensive testing, as I said early on, where we not only look at the individual units, the request to talk units on the desk, but we also look at the computer system and the hardware that manages all of that. And they are very specific processes. In fact, on page 50 is just a very basic process, and it starts with you have to have an engineer that's seated at the table staff's desk that starts up the request to talk system, and another that goes and pushes 20 buttons at a time. And the reason for that is we can only display 10 names on the screen, and you have to scroll down again to view the other 10. So the first 20 buttons that are pushed in the request to talk system is captured in our system. Or the first, should I say, the first 20. So they push 20, they check, they clear it, then they move on to the next 20, and they check each of those that there's 20 registered, and then they move on to the next, so on until they've covered the entire chamber. And that is the nature of the testing.
And then at page 64, the same bundle, the numbering is in the bottom right-hand corner. This appears to describe the request to talk unit replacement procedure. There is a bit more detail over the page at page 65. If you can please just explain that procedure to the committee.
So the standard operating procedure we have is not only for testing, but it also provides very detailed instructions on how an engineer should resolve a particular issue. In this case, on page 65, it describes in detail the procedure that an engineer needs to follow to replace a faulty request to talk button. And without boring the committee too much, I think the process is very detailed. If you would see everything from specifying the size of the Allen, the hexagonal key that you need to use to remove the items in the caddy, to the step-by-step process of opening the caddy, removing the unit, replacing the new one, and then recalibrating the replaced unit to function again.
You referred a moment ago to a procedure followed when you testing the request to talk equipment, and you said that the engineers would press 20 buttons and there would be reflected on a screen somewhere. If you can just drill a bit into the detail of that, on whose screen would that information be captured?
There are two screens in the chamber where that information is captured. On the screen of the table staff, so when a member or a group of members push the request to talk button, the information is displayed on, I stand correction, I think it's on the right-hand side of the table staff screen in the order in which those buttons were pushed. And the same information is then displayed on the speaker screen, on the left screen of the speaker.
it might be thought that the system can't handle these things, and there would be disputes as to, no, I was first. No, actually, I was first. No, 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 please pick me. I was most certainly first. Do you have any comments on how the system deals with those kinds of issues?
In my recollection of the design of the system, the member to push the button first, and then, of course, subsequent to that, all the members that push the buttons afterwards. The system actually captures that in a particular order. And I think it's important to understand that while we as human beings, I think we're thinking in seconds and perhaps milliseconds, electronic components operate in microseconds. So the difference between when a member pushes a button to the member next to him, or somewhere else in the house pushing the button, the difference could be microseconds. And it is my understanding that those systems are designed to detect those differences and record it accordingly.
Other than the human agency of leaning forward and striking the button, is there any human agency in the way in which the system allocates numbers 1 to 10 and the order in which those persons' names would appear on the screens that you describe?
No, there's no human intervention in that process. The system records the actual time that a member pushes the button. We simply display what the system shows us without altering the information in any way.
In relation to the session of 21 August, did your office or any of the members of your team receive reports that the equipment might well have been malfunctioning on that day, such as would require steps, or just general reports of malfunctioning? Were these brought to your attention in relation to the 21st of August?
No, I'm not aware of any such reports, and I think the testing procedures before and after confirmed that no errors were detected on any of the systems, both on the day of the sitting and on the day of the first sitting after the 21st.
Other than a problem that might occur with a request to talk button, which would require its replacement, just that as a very basic issue, what might go wrong with the button, the request to talk button, as it appears at the station of a member in the National Assembly?
I suppose there's any number of things when we talk about electronics that could go wrong. The button itself could be faulty and does not connect. Or the electronics that support that button and detect the button might go faulty. It could be a cable that connects that unit out to the back-end systems could be faulty, potentially. I suppose in the nature of electronics and anything could happen.
And that category of anything can happen, as described by you just momentarily, that, of course, I shouldn't say of course, that would be picked up, would it not, in the testing procedures that you and your team would run on the equipment?
Yes, certainly. And there's a number of ways to detect that. There are a number of management systems that actually, what we call that, poll each of the individual stations to check its status. And if there was a problem, we'd be able to pick up the problem there. If there was a physical button that was faulty, in the testing, we'd be able to detect that. Obviously, if we pushed a particular button and it did not respond, then there would be a problem. We would replace it or try and fix it.
Great. Sorry about that, Mr. Pulia. You say that the replacement procedure is described in detail in your standard operating procedures and that you do keep sufficient spares on site. I'm trying to hurry things along.
Okay,
and that you do keep sufficient spares on site. Who then does the replacement? Are these the people in your team, or do you have to get outside contractors in to replace faulty equipment?
No, it's the team that's there that's busy testing. So it could be a member of my team, it could be a member of the the contractor who would replace it, because the procedure is very detailed and it's very simple to follow. So essentially anybody who's been trained on the procedure could do it. We keep sufficient spares on hand to replace faulty units.
Thank you. Now, you said the system was commissioned, I think you said, or installed in February 2014. The system that you replaced with this, what I call a brand spanking new system, how long had that system been in use in the National Assembly chamber?
The old system in the National Assembly chamber was installed in 2003. So that would make it almost 10 to 11 years old.
The committee has over the course of a few days of the hearing so far, also had the benefit of video footage, and that video footage was from cameras installed in the National Assembly. If you can just describe how those cameras operate.
There are about 5 cameras in the National Assembly chamber that are located at strategic positions in the chamber. All of those cameras are operated remotely, as are these ones. In this very building on the 3rd floor, we have a control room and an operator that sits behind a set of controls, and he then manages the cameras in terms of the shots, the framing of those shots, and the order in which he switches between the various cameras.
The committee has also heard other equipment described as ENG. If you can just explain what that means and the circumstances in which ordinarily that equipment would be used, the ENG camera.
I think the acronym actually stands for electronic news gathering, ENG, which actually refers to a camera that is portable and is normally sitting on the shoulder of an individual and allows them to walk around and record footage. We use that camera from time to time for archive, outside broadcasts, and internal events for Parliament.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Pulia. Mr. Chairman, at this stage, I don't think I have any further questions for Mr. Pulia. With your leave, might I suggest a brief, and just a very brief comfort break? The witness has been in the room for some time. I do understand there was a delay earlier on, but probably just a very brief comfort break for Mr. Pulia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Van Voore. And honorable members, I think it is a request that is ordinarily you can't refuse if it is for a comfort break for the witness, because we need the best out of him and only the truth. And can we grant a 5-minute comfort break to the witness and, of course, to all of us? And can we then come back and continue exactly at 12:15, if my watch is the same like yours?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to also say to the member that it's always important to solicit from other members what do they want to be consulted as a collective.
Yeah. You are covered, then he refused to be covered. And then this is an opportunity then to pose a question that will assist you, Honorable.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this opportunity. I've got just a few questions to ask the manager just sitting across the The first question has to do with the cameras in the house, because I heard you say that the cameras are actually remotely controlled from a particular point. And I just want to know exactly on the day in question, which is the 21st of August, exactly who was operating these cameras. Secondly, on the day, were these cameras actually working properly? Because in the clip that we actually saw, the cameras were fixed on a particular direction most of the time, to a point where we did not see exactly what was happening in the house, generally. But the cameras were fixed in a particular direction, fixed on a particular group of people, of honorable members, and thereby actually not giving anyone a complete, a picture of what was actually happening in the entire house at that particular moment. That's one. Number two has to do with document 111 in the bundle that was made available to us. Document 111 also has to do with the National Assembly Chamber Power Up checklist, where it is actually given a clean health of bill in terms of the color coding that is given there, which is green, to which you confirm that it actually means that all the systems were checked and they were found to be accurate and working. I just want to hear from you the authenticity of this document, given the fact that in the space where the NAC representative, which is the National Assembly Chamber representative, did not sign it, what is the authenticity of this document? And the third question is to do with, it's a specific question. Were there any engineers in the house on the 21st of August? And the following one, was the speaker's equipment working on the 21st of it? How can we actually get that particular information? And the last one is that has to do with, because I have a particular experience on these gadgets on the same day. Can you actually tell us whether you are aware that on the 21st of August 2014, some requests to speak stations were actually not working? In the light of your evidence that on the 21st, everything was actually checked and was found to be working. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, honorable members. And I'm sure honorable members would remember that Mr. Polia, I think, was introduced as a manager for ICT. Yes, and it's a manager, and he's got a whole lot of people underneath who are actually doing all sorts of technical work going down. And so as long as we are just simply aware of that, so that you are clear on the kind of answers that you'll get correct answers, or answers that are reported, done by other delegated technicians going below. As long as we just understand that. Mr. Polia, you can respond to the questions that have been raised. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. On the matter that the member asked regarding what would be described, I suppose, in the IT world as flood testing, or large-scale testing, or stress testing, or load testing, which would generally involve 400 members of parliament hitting the button simultaneously. And how would the system respond, if I interpret your question correctly? The answer to the question is yes, we have tested. In the initial design of the system, it was designed with that worst-case scenario in mind. So the system is well capable of handling those 400 requests, of requests to talk being pushed at the same time. We tested it and we confirmed it before we went live with the system and before the State of the Nation. We brought in staff from all over Parliament to sit at the desks, and we held what we called then a mock sitting, and we put the system through its paces. Of course, now, in the current configuration of the system, we only display the first 20 members that push the button. That does not mean that the system did not record the other 400. It's just in terms of the rules and the way that we were required to display the information, we were only required to display the first 20. In terms of who logs the calls, if there is an issue that is raised in the House, generally, I think I need to say this, the engineers we have 2 engineers on site. One is usually sitting in the Hansard Bay, and the other one is in the data center. And they do simultaneous monitoring of both the proceedings of the House as well as the equipment in the data center. If an issue is logged, or a member reports a particular equipment being faulty or not working, the procedure for us is immediately after the setting is to verify that the equipment is faulty. Now, we may not necessarily replace it at that time. We may do it the next morning if it is faulty, or certainly we will try and fix it before the end of the day, because sometimes sittings could start as early as 10 o'clock in the morning. The engineer, if he does discover a fault, will log it. We'll log it with us, and we'll make a record of it. And then the procedure kicks in terms of the replacement of that particular faulty component. On the day of the 21st, I have no record of any item that was logged. I do recall that the engineers did test the request to talk system after the sitting to check whether there were any faulty units. And I think that was then confirmed again when they did the Monday test, which is a complete test of all the units in the chamber. There is no record of any of those units being replaced or being reported as faulty. In terms of the audio, who turned off the audio on that particular date? We were requested to mute, and that's generally done from the Hansard Bay. So we can mute the audio from there. The question around whether the speaker can disable the audio, her desk does not have that functionality. We have recently installed such a functionality that can be operated by the table staff as well as the sound operator in the Hansard Bay, which will turn off the floor microphones only and leave the table staff microphones and the speaker's microphones operational. The document date that was referred to around the 8th of May, I think I must put that in context. The contract with this particular company was up to a particular date in this year. The deliverables that they had to give us some of those was a standard operating procedure. So while the date is there, the documents have been since handed over. Now, the date was subject to a handover of all the official documents, and as part of our contract, one of the deliverables was the standard operating procedure. And now a lot of questions have been asked about the standard operating procedure, and I think it's important for me to set some context. The standard operating procedure is a working document. It's a living document. The output and the final document that we received was on a CD, and it's electronic in version in its nature. For the simple reason that every time we change a component or we refine the processes in a standard operating procedures, then we amend the procedure. And hence we keep the document in its electronic form. The engineers also access it in an electronic form. Sometimes they may carry a hard copy of it, but the latest version is always stored on our servers and in electronic version. So the document is valid. It is the document we've used for testing, and it does belong to Parliament. In terms of the number of hours, the member asked on, I think it was on a particular page. The hours that they log is the time that they started and they came in to do the testing until the end of the sitting. So sometimes they may stay a little longer to complete if there was a reported malfunction to check. Sometimes they may even perform additional tests, or they may check. And depends, again, the hours that they work would depend on the length of the sitting. Because the engineers do not leave until the sitting is done. The system is shut down, and all of the equipment is locked up before they leave. I think I did answer the one on the reported malfunction on the day. In terms of the National Assembly Chamber representative signing the document, the engineers obviously test pre-sitting. We check. We perform all of our tests together with our IT staff. The sign-off that you see here is the person who's responsible for checking and double-checking the chamber is, in terms of our service management operations within IT, we have a service desk. And the representative who's the head of the service desk operations is responsible for signing off in terms of IT. The National Assembly Chamber, sometimes when they're available, they do sign the document. It sometimes is difficult to get them because before the sitting, they're extremely busy running around setting up and getting things done. So sometimes it's possible to get them to sign off on it and sometimes not. But we certainly will make an effort to make sure that they sign off. We do brief them, though, before the sitting, that all is in order, and that if there are any issues, we also report it to them, and I think they can confirm that at some point. I think we spoke about the sequence rate of the equipment. The member asked, and I think the question was potentially related to the initial question, was how quickly can it, could you clarify that for me?
Yes, can you assist?
Thanks. My question, sir, was, what is the, according to the way the equipment is calibrated, what is the frequency at which it can sequence the speakers? We're talking seconds or milliseconds here. That would be with this, the way it was designed. Thank you.
Okay. One of the things I did was to try and understand the spec sheets, of course. The difficulty here is that when you are looking at a manufacturer specification sheet, generally the information is related to their intellectual property. So often they will not give you information like that. But in our design of the system, one of the things that we looked for in terms of the rate is that we wanted the difference between, and this is subject to confirmation, the difference between a person coming first or second on the list could be in the microseconds. I can't tell you exactly how many microseconds, but it could be in the microseconds. And you must understand that we are dealing with electronic equipment. The electronic equipment operates at a clock speed that is in the gigahertz range. And I hope I'm not getting too technical. So if you look at those kind of frequencies and you calculate that into a time space, you're looking at very minute fractions of a second. The document validity, again, the standard operating procedure is a living, working document that we use to support the National Assembly Chamber. Our versions of the document were changed on a day-to-day basis as and when we need to amend them. We keep them electronic. We try not to print them out for a number of reasons. We like our trees. And the engineers generally access the electronic version. Okay, so this is a valid document. It's the one that we use to test the chamber in its current form. In terms of the cameras, so were the cameras working? Yes, they were working. I think some of the footage did indicate a number of different perspectives in terms of the way the camera focused while the sitting was in progress. So the cameras were operational. In terms of the camera operators themselves, and I think we must also take into cognizance that this is one of the first times we've had an incident like this in the National Assembly Chamber. So I suppose we are dealing with human beings. And if they focused on a particular area, and I'm not sure that they did, but I'll assume that the member has watched the full video. I'm sure it was just simply to capture the moment, and it wasn't. There was no other motive. I have spoken to the camera operators, and they operated within the guidelines that we've given them for that day. So the cameras weren't fixed for a particular reason. Again, I think there was a question around document 111. Why was it not signed? I thought I'd spoken about that earlier. Yes, the sign-off sheets are authentic as far as we're concerned in terms of our service management procedures for the National Assembly Chamber. Were there engineers in the house on the day? Yes. As I described earlier, we have one engineer that monitors the back-end systems in the data center, and we have one engineer that's located in the Hansard Bay. Was there any reported RTT units not working on the day? Again, the engineer in the Hansard Bay would have taken note had there been any complaints by members around particular equipment that was not working. Obviously, there's nothing we can do while the sitting is in progress because the technical staff are not allowed to come onto the floor of the House while we're in session. The only time we can come out is once the sitting is adjourned. And even if the sitting is suspended, we try not to come onto the floor. When the meeting was adjourned, I was told that they did check the request to talk buttons. And they could not find any faulty units. And again, when we did the Monday check, which is a thorough assessment and diagnostic of all the systems, we did not find any faulty units that needed replacement. There were no calls logged. I've looked through the records. I did not find any spares that were drawn for that particular day to replace them. Chair, I think that's the last of the questions. I hope I've answered them.
Is there anyone that thinks that there is a question that he or she has posted and it was not responded to? I need those ones first before I take the second round. Is your question, Honorable Filtan? And then, Honorable Lotrit, you had a question that was not responded to. If it's a follow-up, then just wait a second. Honorable Filtan.
Thank you, Chair. I want to know why is it that there was no report submitted on the malfunctioning of the system on the 21st? That is very, very critical. You have repeatedly said that no such a report was submitted. Why? Thank you.
Yeah, without really protecting the witness, I think that question has been answered. And it will be a little bit important that we remind ourselves to listen carefully. You can repeat that, Mr. Poli.
Thank you, Chair. As I said earlier, on the 21st, the engineer does sit in the House and does take note. if there are particular complaints from members around malfunctioning equipment. Immediately after the sitting, we try and verify whether the equipment is malfunctioning to make necessary repairs. If they tested the equipment and they did not find anything wrong at that particular time, then there would not be a log, because it does not require any remediation or repairs. If we had repaired a component or replaced something, then there definitely would be a log.
Thank you. Can I just take another round? Then Honorable Twala, then Honorable Esso, then followed by Honorable Lotrit. I'm not seeing any other hand going up in that order. Honorable Twala.
Thanks, Chair. I would want the witness to take us through page 113 and just give us an indication as to his understanding of that which is being communicated and interacted upon on page 30, on page 113. The second question, Chair, the witness has actually made a very interesting concession that on the day in question, because of the events of the day and the fact that it's something that had never been experienced before, the cameras tended to focus on a specific group of people, thus robbing this committee of a holistic view of events that unfolded in the House on the particular day. Is there any information, apart from that which we have seen on videos presented here as reflective of the events of the day, that we haven't been showed in terms of the footage? And if no, can we access that footage so as to have a holistic view of the happenings in the House on that day in question? Thanks.
Okay, Honorable Esso.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think mine would be a similar one in terms of page 116, just to give us an understanding of the emails that was sent between individuals on that day, referring to the House and the preparation and issues maybe. Some of them are not very clear because it's noted as not given when it's asked certain questions. Just to explain to us briefly 116. The other one is, of course, the Secretary of Parliament noted that some of the equipment was not working on the day. However, the Secretary of Parliament did not log that with the ICT service desk. So there seems to be a comment on the one side, and from the engineer side, there seems to be something else. And the engineer was present during the sitting. I'd like to also just know what happens when people all want to talk at the same time and press the button. Is there the possibility that, of course, only one person can talk at a time and not many mics can be on for people to respond or wanting to speak and press the button out of their own accord, not that they've been recognized, but they press the button? What are the issues that could develop if many people press and want to speak at the same time?
Yes, Honorable Lotrit.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on the question I asked earlier about switching off the audio, because that does impact on the evidence that was led already, because we could only see the visuals and we could not have the audio. Could you perhaps give an indication of why it was switched off and who gave the instruction that it be switched off? Thank you.
Are we done? Okay. Have you collected your mind now after writing the questions? Because I think just like last week, and then I said to honorable members that it is a little bit important to ask maybe one question at a time, so that the witness doesn't find himself or herself battling with ordering your question rather than organizing your response. And because when you are faced with many questions, then it becomes a bit of a problem. I just hope that he is capable of being multidisciplinary to deal with the question ordering and the response ordering. If you are ready, you can take us on.
Thank you, Chair. I hope I understood the member's question correctly around the footage. Was there any additional footage that we did not submit to the committee? Was that your question? No, the answer is no. We submitted all recordings, both from the ENG and from our master tapes as we recorded them. So what you have that was put before the committee is all of our recordings. We've not withheld any of the recordings. There was a question around the secretary had acknowledged or identified some faulty units. And again, the engineer would have been in the house, and generally the secretary would have spoken directly to the engineer to review and check. And we would have checked, either the very afternoon of the sitting, or certainly when we have done our Monday checks, we would have checked each and every item again. And then before the sitting, a pre-sitting. So if there had been any faults that were discovered either on the Monday or before the pre-sitting or immediately after the sitting again, we would have logged it and replaced it, because it is in our interest to make sure that all the equipment is fully functional in the National Assembly chamber. So we do check. As to why it wasn't working on the particular day, I don't have an answer for you, because as I said, we did our diagnostic testing and we were unable to find anything in particular that was wrong with the system. There was a question around the emails and, there was, if you had many people pushing the button at the same time. The system is designed in a way that it's a toggle system. So you push it once and it switches on. If you push it again, it's going to switch off. And I think that's the nature of it. So you could push it 100 times, and depending on how many times you push it, the unit will record whatever you do. So you're either pushing it on and off, on and off. You are not sending 100 requests to the server. Because when you push the button, it logs that request and the system picks it up. When you push it again, it's going to switch it off and the system takes it off. So it's the nature and the way the system is designed to operate, to handle such instances where people are pushing it on and off. So it is a design feature. As I said, we did test 400 simultaneous push of the system when we installed it, just to confirm and to test it. In terms of those emails that some of the members and the details, you will notice that these are pretty much standard in most of the documents that we get. So if you look, what they're really asking is, if you are logging a call, then these are the fields that you must submit in order for us to log the call. So I'll give you an example on page 116. It says, where physically or in the network is the trouble observed, address Cape Town Parliament. So in this case, we're logging a call for not an issue with the system, but for them to come out and do the preset checking. It's not a technical problem, but it's the way their service desk operates. And then it says when the symptom was first noticed, not given because there was no technical fault, it's simply a sitting that they need to support us on. If there was a technical fault, we would log the exact nature of the fault, the details, and we would answer then all of those questions. So you'll notice that these questions are there. They're standard questions in the email. The question that the member asked around why was the audio switched off. Again, we take our instructions directly from the table in terms of the footage, the settings. We were asked to mute the sound by the table, and my technicians then complied.
You're done. You have a question that has not been responded to. Okay. Can you just raise that specific question which has not been responded to? I'm sure it's Honorable SO as well as the same problem. Okay, can you start, Twal?
Honorable Chair, I specifically referred to 113 and ask the witness to just take us through what is written there. We're lay people, we are not that intelligent. If you could assist us with that, thanks.
Can we then have him to talk to that other than overloading him with a question. Probably that may be the effect of having skipped some other question. Have you got page 113?
Yes.
And then have you internalized it?
Yes.
Okay, you may respond.
Thank you, Chair. I think if you look at 113, and again, I'm sorry that I referred to 116, you'll notice that the questions there that they're referring to are similar in nature. And I think it's the way it's been printed and the formatting of it that makes it look a little different. For example, it asks, what is wrong with it? Support for the NA chamber. So again, it's the similar thing that we've had on page 116, where we log a call, but not because there's an issue with the National Assembly chamber, but because there's a sitting that needs to be supported, and etc. And again, it says where physically or in the network is the trouble observed, and it's the same on that email, where physically on the network on page 116. So these are standard questions that they issue when they log a call. Their service desk then sends us a confirmation of that call with these fields in them. And it could be any nature of the call. That's really what they send to us. So essentially, those are exactly the same type of questions that they have. This is a standard email that comes from the service provider.
Honorable Esso.
Honorable Chair, my question was very specific. If a number of people press a button, how many people can speak at the same time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I know it is sequenced and people speak in order generally, but what if many people press buttons? How many people can speak at one time?
Yeah, I'll really maybe ask the witness just to answer that for, I think it will be for the third time now since I've been here. And I think he may be willing to repeat that, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I assume that the member is talking about the request to talk button when you say push the button. So if 400 members in the chamber push the request to talk button, it's only the first 20 that is captured on the screen for that particular question. And the order in which they pushed the button is captured, so from first to last. Again, it is then up to the speaker to acknowledge who on that list gets to speak. All the request to talk system does is to register who pushed the button and in what order they pushed the button, and displays that on the screen of the speaker and on the table. So we only display the first 20 buttons pushed for that question.
Yeah, the understanding, I think that needs to be made clear. Maybe may not framing the answer in the more direct way. Its members must also try and verify themselves. When you are in front of a keyboard that you are typing and press 2 buttons at the same time, only one will be recorded, the one that is first. Because I understood what you are saying. It may be even in nanoseconds, making a difference between the 2 buttons being pressed at the same time. But electronic systems will make the difference. Even in nanoseconds, while you think that you have pressed the two buttons at the same time, but the pressure on the button may not be exactly at the same time. It may have a difference in nanoseconds. And then the equipment will make that difference. And I just hope that, is it a follow-up question, Honorable Esau?
I think the answer, I just want a direct answer. No 2 people can speak at one time. I want to know that. Because that answer is not given. I can understand sequencing.
Yes.
But as long as my mic is on, nobody else can speak. Is that true? Or does it go off automatically?
Okay, just explain that other part.
Chair, I think I need to put on record that the microphone system is not linked to the request to talk system. The microphone system operates independently. So the request to talk system simply captures the order in which you push the button. If the speaker acknowledges, then the member walks up to the microphone, switches on, and speaks. Now, in the National Assembly chamber, we allow up to 5 microphones on the floor to be turned on at any given time. At one time, yes.
Thanks, Chair. This is basically a follow-up to a question that I posed earlier in relation to the footage of the day in question. There's a concession that has been made by the witness as well as the chairman himself that we're dealing with human beings who might have gotten excited and forgot to observe and do their duty as expected, and thus focus their attention on the 20 individuals or 25 in the house, thus robbing this committee of very, very valuable footage that could have given us a proper perspective of the happenings in the house on the day in question. Now, you in your answer, you indicated that you submitted everything to whoever requested you to. I don't know who that is. I'm not sure if that which you submitted to whatever power has played itself out in the videos that we have been taken through. And that's my contention, that the video evidence as presented thus far in this hearing is not fully reflective of the event of the day. And how do we recover that missing footage that covers these other events in the day that are not covered in that which has been presented? Thanks.
On a point of order, Chair.
Let's hear the point of order from Honorable Bongo.
Chair, it will appear the member is asking what he has asked before. And the man which is now putting the question, I think, is just superfluous. I suggest that if he has issues that he may want to raise on arguments, he must be able to separate that from questions, because he's advancing an argument. So that may be advanced. The procedure does provide that such an argument may be advanced at a later stage. So for now, I think we must not pose superfluous questions that may not assist us. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I think your point of order is sustained. The views and the arguments, can they be withheld now for your deliberations? Because now we just needed the facts, what happened exactly. And then we reserve our views for your own deliberations at an appropriate time. Honorable Eso? Oh, okay. Honorable Lotrit?
Thank you, Chairperson. I would just like to go back to the audio. The witness said that the table requested that it be switched off. Could he perhaps be more specific as to who from the table requested? Thank you.
Yes, I think that is it will be a very short answer. Honorable Mwango?
Mr. Chairman, I had actually asked whether the Madam Speaker's equipment was actually working on that day, and I didn't get the question. The second one was whether there were any engineers in the house on that day. I'm asking this question because I had problems with my own personal, my own, what is this thing called? Request to speak. And it is captured in the Hansard that I actually had to use somebody else's station to speak because mine was not.
There is a point of order, Honorable Mwango. Can we hear it from Honorable Bongo?
I think, Chair, it will be important that members must listen attentively and very careful to these proceedings, because I take it that Honorable Mwango is not listening proper. These questions was...
No, Chair, I think that's derogatory. No, that's derogatory.
Order, Honorable Member.
To use that language. No,
This question, Chair, was asked.
Just a second. Order, Honorable Members. I think, Honorable Bongo, you can just withdraw that one of just simply saying he's not listening carefully.
I withdraw, Chair.
Thank you very much.
And then what I'm saying is that this question was specifically posed to...
On a point of order, Mr. Chairman, can he withdraw unconditionally?
No, I thought that Honorable Member he has withdrawn that, but he was continuing with his point of order. that he was raising, but withdrawn that one that
I would
you
be
are not
happy with
listening
the
carefully.
withdrawal unconditionally because that was an attack on my integrity.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Let's first deal with this point of order. I think let's just complete the point of order of Honorable Bongo.
Yeah, Chair, I was listening very attentively. This question that he's asking, it was asked before, and it was properly answered by saying that on the day in question, they've never picked up anything that said that the system was not working.
Yes.
So how much answer do we need? So I'm not attacking his integrity. Maybe his listening capacity. Thank you, Chair.
No.
On a point of order, Mr. Chairperson.
Honorable Bongo, you are not assisting us.
On a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Order, Honorable Mwango. Honorable Bongo, I'm still addressing Honorable Bongo Mwango. Just hold on a little bit, Honorable Mwango. Honorable Bongo, you are not assisting us, and then I think it is really derogatory what you have actually just said, and it needs to be withdrawn, Honorable Member.
I withdraw unconditional, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. The truth, of course, yes. The truth of course, is that the question that Honorable Mwango is asking has been asked many times, and then it has been responded many times. And then if the witness is prepared to actually just simply go through again, then it would allow him to do so. But I thought that it was answered and fully, actually. Can I just ask the witness if he could just simply attempt to respond to that question? Can you continue?
Thank you, Chair. So just that question, or you want me to deal with the others as well? There were a number of questions that were asked, I think, before.
Well, the question that he has actually just asked, which is really making him agitated, I think that's the question that needs to be addressed. Yes.
As I said, we had an engineer in the house, and there were several. Well, I don't know how many, but if members did complain about their particular units, we would have then checked it immediately after the sitting. And as I said, it's not possible for us to do any checks or maintenance while the house is in session. We would have checked it. Again, when I look at the reports, we would have checked it again on the Monday, and where we do our full diagnostic testing, there was no reports of any units being replaced or being faulty. So all the units were checked and tested.
Okay, thank you very much. And then just hold on the other questions. Honorable Filtan.
Thank you, Chair. Would the witness kindly confirm that he has got no first-hand knowledge of the tests that were conducted? It's all reports that have been generated by his subordinates so that we can place that evidence in its appropriate box. Thank you.
Honorable Dagan.
No, Chair. At the time I was raising my hand, I wanted just to raise the point that we are in hearing. We should avoid and be tempted to get involved in committee mode. Time for committee discussion is still going to come. And therefore, I thought that point of orders and all other points in the hearing generally should not be we must not be tempted to use the point of orders. At the same time, we must not be tempted to start arguing whether the evidence is correct or not. The evidence, in leading evidence, the witness is presenting what he knows, has taken an oath on that. And then we should reserve some of the issues for the committee discussion. Because otherwise, Chair, that was the point that when I raised my hand, but also the point that I wanted to make follow-up on. And then I heard the witness saying, as far as he knows, the system was working on the 21st of August this year. He has said this not less than 5 times. And I think that the point that he has raised. And then it is my view, Chair, that the reason why we wanted the witness to come here was to know whether the system was working in their house in that day or not. The witness has already indicated several times that the system, as far as he knows, the system was tested and the system was working. Therefore, it is my view, Chair, that we are not in the committee deliberation at the moment. We are in the hearing. We must allow the processes of hearing to proceed, and then accordingly, Chair. That's what I wanted to make it as an appeal.
Honorable Twala, do you still have another question?
Thanks, Chair. First of all, I think we need to place things in context. The witness is an expert in his field. We know nothing about that which he knows or talks about or specializes in. We only have this opportunity to get as much information as possible from the witness so as to move from an informed basis on what happened on the day in question. Now, if questions are going to be raised and others find them to be superfluous, I think that begins to talk into the ability of the witness to talk onto the issue of the day. Honorable Chair, on the day in question, sir, how many cameras were operational? How many? What was their focus? Thanks.
Yeah. You can attempt to respond to those questions. And of course, as I've indicated, honorable members, is that, actual technical matters that are delegated functions of functionaries below, and then must be recognized. And I think you'll be able to respond, but I think we have an indication that there is a room at level 3, I think, where it's a control room. Then there are technicians in there that are working there and manning the cameras on a day-to-day basis when they have to do that in any normal proceedings of the House or for any committee room. I think that's what we really had. And so I think you can respond and still make that clarity, because we already had that clarity before. But you can still repeat it so that when we get out here, we all have clarity. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I think there was a question around who specifically asked the engineers. Unfortunately, I was not in the Hansard Bay at the time, so I can't respond to that question. Was the speaker's equipment tested? Yes, it was, and it was found to be working because, as I said, I think in one of my previous responses, that we check the entire system because it has various components, and the speaker's screens, particularly on the day of questions, is important. So we always check it. How many cameras are operational? I think I did cover that one. There was 5 in the National Assembly, and we had 5 operational. As to what their focus was, generally, Chair, we have some guidelines in which we give our operators in which to operate and record the sittings of the House. We don't give them any particular mandates, but simply to broadcast what happens in the House.
Any other question that has been missed on those that have been raised? Those that have been raised. Honorable Filtan, it looks like you believe that your question has not been answered.
I don't know if he's answered my question. Maybe it's
just raise it. Yeah.
Okay, my question was, does the witness have first-hand knowledge of what is contained in the reports he has submitted? Or is he relying just on those uncertified photocopies? This will help us to place his evidence in the right box. Thank you.
I've got a little bit of a problem because you have actually redrafted the question that you posed before. You have redrafted it. Yes. But let the witness then respond to the one that you have said now. But the one that you are referring to, it was not exactly the way you have put it now. Just respond on that one.
Chair, I can confirm that I was not in the House during the testing because it's not part of my functions to be there. But you are correct, it is a delegated function. We had 4 engineers, 2 from our contractor and 2 from Parliament that were part of the testing. And they confirmed that the systems were operational. On the basis of that and the report that was submitted to me, I am now testifying that the systems were operational.
Okay. It looks like Twala will refuse to eat if he doesn't ask this question. You can ask Twala.
So, the compilation of events and activities in the House, what is it meant for? Is it for evidence? Is it for the public? And what drives the need for this footage? Thanks.
I'm not really clear what you have asked. You mean the recordings, the video footage, and the Hansards and all that? Why are they being done? Is that what you are asking?
Can I
just repeat it because we also wanted to be clear that he has responded to your question fully.
Yes. I'm just asking a very simple, direct question, Chair. There are videos in the House located at different parts, naturally to compile a record of sorts. Is that record meant for use as evidence or anything else? Thanks.
Okay, I think now it is a little bit clear. You can respond.
Chair, what I can confirm is that when we do broadcast and record footage in the House, it is sent to the national broadcasters, including DSTV, ETV, SABC, and anybody else who requests that footage. They take it live. We stream it via our YouTube channel, so it's available to the public online. We record it as archive material. What it's used for, I can't tell you exactly because we keep the archive when it's requested, either from members of the public or internally. We submit an accurate recording of that sitting.
We are over the time that lunch has been made available. It is getting cold, and I'm not sure whether we've got enough microwaves in the holding room. In the holding room, Honorable Mdagal.
Chair, the point that I wanted just to raise, I'm not sure what I refer this as a question, is a point that the manager who's a witness is here. The question I wanted to pose is that the 65 team that we are leading, they report to you almost on daily basis about what is happening in the ICT area in Parliament. Are they doing that?
Okay, I think you can respond to that.
Chair, I think it's important to keep in mind that the unit that manages the audio-video systems at Parliament is a unit, and it has a unit manager. That unit manager reports to me on a daily basis on particular issues that he needs to escalate to me or that needs my intervention.
Okay, it looks like then the reporting is through the normal line functions of the directorate. You have a follow-up?
Chair, the point that I was raising, the manager, is that we are here as a lead evidence-giving person. All those units, generally speaking, they work under your directorates. The point that I was raising that on the 21st of August, and then the unit is, I think I suspect that the unit would have reported to you everything that has happened in the house. Did that happen? That's the point that I'm raising.
Okay, you can respond to that.
No, the answer to that is yes. While the matter was happening, and we also had several sessions after to discuss what happened in the house.
Okay. Honorable members, it looks like we have satisfied ourselves with the questions that we wanted to ask. There may still be a question or whatever. It's all what it matters is how significant is the question, what sort of value will that particular evidence that you're looking for going to assist you in your deliberations moving forward. And I would have loved us to break for lunch before some of us collapse unceremonially. And honorable members, let's try and be back by 10 to 2. Yes, and then the witness, of course, I think as we have concluded, I think we may release the witness. Yes. Okay, let me just hang on a little bit because it looks like now I've got a counter from Honorable Mwango.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to know that in the report that he received immediately after what had happened on the 21st, in the report, was there any mention made that there was a particular facility, a request to speak facility that did not work?
Yeah, so Honorable Mdagan wanted to say something as well. Are you covered?
I think I'm done. I'm very happy with the answer that was given to me.
Oh, okay. No, thank you very much. Let us have a situation where Honorable Mwango would say, I'm done, I'm happy. Can you respond to Honorable Mwango? Because otherwise we may not have lunch.
Chair, again, the staff did indicate that there was a member who indicated in the House that his button was not working. And again, we checked it after the sitting to verify, and they reported that to me.
Okay. I think this should be the end of the questions from the members. Mr. Van Voore, you have heard the members going up and down, left and right, forward and backwards. And do you have any comment, anything to raise? You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two issues. The one is firstly I have no further questions other than to comment that I'm indebted to Mr. Pulia for having come and explained to the committee. I think there were some rather useful factual issues which he has traversed, which the committee can then deliberate on. And the second is an entirely housekeeping question, Mr. Chairman. You did indicate that we'd be back at 10 to 2. I fear that would give us some 15 minutes from now. Unless there's a compelling reason to do so, might I suggest 2 o'clock?
Oh. Okay, I think I will accede for you to be a shop steward of the members. And then, honorable members, I think that take us to lunch. And then Mr. Pulia, then we need to thank you for having made yourself available and on the invitation of the committee to come and assist them with some evidence that will assist them in the deliberations towards the conclusion of this exercise. I really want to say thank you on behalf of the committee. And you are then released. And honorable members, let's go to lunch, and then we come back exactly at 2 o'clock on the request of your shop steward.